Then finally, as far as the relationship between men and women, I want to touch quickly, and we will touch upon it later on, inshallah, about the other claim that a woman is half of the man. You tell them how. They say, you know what? Look in the Quran, it tells you that a son, when his father passes away, inherits double what the daughter, his sister, would inherit. Then exactly, you know what? By proof, a girl is half of a man in Islam. What they do not mention to you, whether by ignorance or even if they knew they would omit it, is that that son, when he inherits from his father, he inherits with him. This is, subhanallah, qaida muttarida, is a consistent rule in the entire inheritance law in Islam. When he inherits his father, he inherits also the financial responsibilities of the father. In Islamic law, the father is responsible for his girl. And when his girl gets married, her husband is financially 100% responsible for her. And if her husband passes away, her son is financially responsible for her. So when the father dies, yes, the son inherits double, but because he with that inherits the father's financial responsibility over the daughter. What does that mean? That means that whatever she inherits, that half that what she inherits is only for her. And he would support her till she gets married. And when she gets married, she gets a dowry, she keeps her inheritance, and the husband has no right to take one penny, either from her income or from her inheritance. If she, by her own goodwill, would like to contribute to the household budget, fine, she can do that. But there's no obligation whatsoever that she will put money. Versus, for example, the French law. The French law says that you have to, as a wife, contribute to the household budget. So, subhanAllah, that is perfectly fair. Is that enough? No. If it is the man is better than the woman, or the woman is half of a man, let's look at one example of ilm al-fara'id. Ilm al-fara'id is the ilm of inheritance law in Islam. You have a grandfather, you have his son, and then you have two grandchildren, a boy and a girl. The father in the middle passes away. Then who you have left? You have the father, you have the grandson, and the granddaughter. The daughter would inherit half of her brother, correct? But she would inherit more than his father. Isn't he a man? Isn't she a woman? How come? The other constant rule in Islamic law, actually there are three. The first one, the amount of your inheritance is according to how close you are with a relative to the person who passed away. So a female that is a closer relative inherits more than a male who is a remote relative. That goes without saying. So a female inherited more. The second thing, which explains what we just said, is the position of the generation that is about to inherit. The son and the daughter are a young generation. They're about to face life and necessities, and they're about to build their careers and so on and so forth. So they need more money, and that's why she will inherit more. Her grandfather, he belongs to a generation that already lived his life and got what he had, and he made whatever that he made already. Then he inherits less. The third one is who's responsible for whom. Like we explained that the son is responsible for his own sister, then he would inherit more than anyone else. In all, whenever anyone mentions that, there's 34 potential cases of inheritance. In 4 cases, truly, the female inherits half of the male. The other 30 cases, she either inherits the same, inherits more, and in 3 cases, a female inherits, and the male does not inherit. Like, for example, if they are step brother and sister, and the mother dies, the daughter inherits, and the son does not inherit. So 34 cases, 4 she gets half, the other 30 is of the same, more, or she inherits, and he does not inherit anything. And when she inherits, the money is hers. When a male inherits, he inherits it with the responsibility that he has to sponsor her. Who is being taken care of in Islam? Is it the woman or the man? Subhanallah. Everything is for the protection of our sisters, our wives, and our mothers with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of all that, the people who come to you and subhanAllah, the audacity of ignorance and the audacity of hate. How could she get half and how could she get double than that? And subhanAllah, the case is all around us. Is there any guarantee for any daughter in any Western law that you would have inherit a certain amount of money? Absolutely not. An example is Leona Helmsley, the real estate tycoon. She owned the Pan Am building, the MetLife building, and subhanAllah, she had an empire of real estate. When she died, she put in her will, you know what? Forget about my grandchildren or relatives. I want to leave all my money to dogs. I myself can write a will right now, notarize it, as an American citizen. You know what? I want to leave all my money for, good-looking trees. My son or my daughters would not get anything. I am a free man. In Islam, the right of inheritance, la wasiyata fi, meaning that I said, you know what, I leave this, and that. Whatever will that I leave is applicable only upon 1/3 of my inheritance. The other 2/3 would have to be distributed according to Islamic law with guaranteed rights for the girl before the boy. No matter what I do. If I wanted to give more, then while I am alive, fairly and justly, I should give according to the needs, because sometimes you have, wealthy children and not well-to-do children. But when I leave the will is applicable only to 1/3 and 2/3 with the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one can change that. Where do you have that justice? Where do you have that guarantee and mandate of the protection of women's rights? Verses take you now, and they never criticize these people because there's no war on them. The war is only against Islam and Muslims. In Japan, you know how technologically developed and wealthy Japan is? There's no such a thing as a girl inherit to begin with. There's no such a thing as a daughter inherit anything from her father. The law there is that, you know what, she's going to wind up marrying a man, and that man would inherit, then she would share his wealth. There's no such a thing that she inherits, she gets 0. Do you hear anyone complaining about that? No, because it's Islamophobia, not Japanophobia. But we need to learn and we need to be proud of our deen and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of all that, wallahi subhanallah, we can talk for days about that. In the middle of 7th century, we're talking about Islam and a law that was given to mankind in the middle of 7th century. 7th century, and think about this, and I want you to repeat it after me. If you get the most knowledgeable scholar on the face of the planet in the middle of 7th century, he knows less than any 4th grader of our kids nowadays. The amount of science, the amount of math, the amount of physics, what you know about geography, far exceeds the most brilliant genius scholar in the middle of 7th century. Yet Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave us one part of Sharia law, that ilm al-fara'id. Wallahi, when you see how the rule works, al-asaba wal-rahim, and you see how the money is distributed and how the rules apply no matter what the combinations are, wallahi, you can have a PhD in mathematics and you still cannot wrap your mind around it. You cannot even invent something like that.